Are you feeling torn between homeschooling your kids and keeping your family's income? Or maybe you're wondering how to guide your child's learning without having all the answers? If that sounds like you are definitely in the right place. Welcome to the Ultimate Homeschool Community Podcast, where homeschool dreams really meet real world support. I'm Tiffany Hernandez, here to help you connect with the tools, community, and business strategies to homeschool confidently and keep your family's income strong. If you're ready to lead, learn, and launch, let's get started. Welcome, everyone. So glad to have you here with me. It's the Ultimate Homeschool Community Podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Hernandez. Today, we have a special guest. Her name is Gabrielle. She is with A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. Welcome. So glad to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So I love the fact that we've been able to connect online, and I've previously come on your show, which was great. So I can share a little bit about homeschooling. So I'm going to post the link in the show notes for that so people can go check out your channel and all the wonderful advice that you're sharing over there. Can you share a little bit with everyone who you are and all the services that you have to offer?
Yeah, so I am the owner and director of my tutoring company, A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So my company, our mission is for students to to be better than how they were before, right? To reach out to families that won't be able to afford like the big box companies, right? And we're more on a manageable scale, a reasonable scale. So our purpose is to reach out to those families, right? And for us to, it's sort of like money isn't a factor in education, right? I mean, obviously, the more money you put in, the better overall, but we target those working class families that may not be able to, I don't want to name names, but may not be able to afford those big companies, right? So we reach out to those working class, those families as well. So in terms of our services, we provide in-home tutoring. So the tutors come out to the students in person. We only do that for our local area. So that's New York City and Long Island. But for everyone else, we do offer online tutoring as well, which is something that we've started doing since the pandemic began. So we've dipped into that field of virtual tutoring, but we provide online tutoring as well for all the other states. We still do New York and Long Island if you're interested in virtual, but we do virtual across the US. We're also trying to expand to Canada and the UK. So if you have any international listeners, we're expanding there as well. But yeah, so that's virtual tutoring. We also do test prep. We also do what else we do? We do college counseling as well, and we also do some editing and proofreading. So we also have a variety of workshops coming up as well. So we provide a lot of services under one umbrella.
That is amazing. I love to hear that you are taking it international because I feel like, a lot of times we're just, focused on our little area, but there's so much more in terms of homeschooling abroad. There's a lot of students that are maybe stationed outside of the United States and still need help and can't, maybe get to those services. So that's a great opportunity for them to be able to still get some assistance in those areas. So, with your test prep and all the other things that you offer, are these just one-on-one? Do you do groups or do you do a mix of both? How do you end up setting up your services for, your students?
So right now, it's only one-on-one. We don't do groups at this time. So that also works the same way where, we do in-person test prep for our local area, but we also do virtual test prep as well. So it's still the in-person online dynamic, but in terms of the way we do test prep, um, it is one-on-one at this time. So in terms of the types of tests, we don't do all. We're kind of limited in that scale, but we do SAT, which is a popular one, ACT as well. We do SHSAT for the New Yorkers over here. So we do a lot of the popular test preps as well. We also do state tests. So over here in New York, it's called Regents for the high schoolers. For the middle schoolers, it's just state exams. So even wherever you are in the country, we do those high stakes end of the year exams as well. So we also do that. But yeah, but test prep right now is one-on-one.
Okay, which is, I mean, it's really better for the students to have it more individualized. But I really like that you were saying, it's not just the SAT or ACT, you're focused on the standardized tests that are needed. A lot of homeschoolers in certain states do have to take assessment tests. So you are able to help them with that. That is a huge help because I know there's a lot of parents who end up getting stressed out about, is my student ready for this? Do we need to prep for this? Or I'm unschooling, or I'm not, my students maybe not up to par on every single level. How do I prepare them for these tests that they have to do so we can stay in compliance with the state?
Absolutely, absolutely. And in terms of I know it depends on the state in terms of the types of assessments. So we would, depending on what state, depending on what assessment, we would have to discuss that. We would have to work that out. But yeah, I know it's you know, in talking to other homeschooling parents, especially those that are about to graduate their kids, it can be complicated. I mean, that's a lot of students take the GED, which we do on a limited scale. I will say that. So GED is another type of assessment in preparation for college. There's also, I know there's other specific ones. I know the GED is a big one for homeschoolers. But we do GED as well. It does depend on the student, but that's another service that we offer as well. And I know it can be confusing, especially for homeschoolers, especially at that time where you're, you're about to end the high school period, right, to graduate them and move them on to college. So it could be very complicated, but our tutors can help with that for sure.
That's really helpful to know because I just, being in the homeschooling environment now, but graduating from the public school and just all the transcripts and figuring all of that out, I know can be overwhelming. And having someone to help you, at least, or help your student to get through that period, so that way all your ducks are in a row. Because eventually, even though we talk a lot about not checking off boxes, for high school and to get your diploma, there are certain criteria and requirements that are necessary for them to graduate. So we still have to make sure we're on par with what they need for those requirements. So back to what you were saying with your tutoring services. Now I know you do a lot of local and you're expanding to online and abroad. What kind of help are you seeing the students need the most these days? Like, is it more reading comprehension? Is it more math development? What do you end up seeing students need help with, in this day and age?
In this day and age, it's not so much subjects, but what I'm seeing more is lack of foundational skills. Um, so for math, for example, there may be that fifth grader that doesn't know how to do division, right? And here in New York, I think it might be the same in all other states, but I think even homeschooling too, there's also like there's standards that you have to meet for each grade. So for a fifth grader that doesn't know how to divide, that's alarming. Um, so to put it frank, that's pretty alarming. Um, so there's a lack of foundational skills. So you'll also have the older student that maybe is having trouble with reading comprehension or pronouncing those words, those big words, right? Those issues with phonics, right? I personally, because I tutor myself under the company, I do see a lack of foundational knowledge or with writing, right? How to write a proper essay, right? So, and I think especially with the pandemic and more things being put online, which is another thing that I've noticed in looking at just like the public schools, there's a lot of stuff that's put online, which means it's more screen time on the computers. So there is that lack of social connection, which I'm also seeing as well. So I think that's one of the big things that I'm seeing now is, and a lot of parents don't put that out front. They'll, there's like the presenting problem, right? Which is, oh, my son is struggling in math. And then you meet the student, you start tutoring, and then you notice, oh, in order for you to get here, I see you're missing some grade levels, right? So, there's what they present with, and then when you actually get into it, you realize, oh, there's some underlying problems we got to deal with first, right? So there's definitely a lack of foundation I'm seeing and I've been seeing as of late. It's something that I normally see, but I think since the pandemic, I'm seeing a lot more of those. And it does, that's the thing with math, for example, it builds on itself, right? So in order for you to understand something like algebra, you need to know how to multiply, right? So math, reading, writing, all these skills build on themselves. And I think also there's the rise of artificial intelligence, right? Kind of happened in the past couple of years. So particularly with writing, there's a lot more. I don't want to say. I mean, there is cheating, but there's a lot
Yeah.
more. Like students are using AI more for their papers. AI in itself is not a bad thing, in my opinion, if you use it correctly,
Oh,
right? It's
agreed.
not a bad thing. But if you're using it to write your papers, that's where the problem lies. And so the lack of personal touch in essays. There's with AI
Your
that they
tone.
throw out a lot of those big words, but if you don't know what those big words mean, well, so there's more artificial intelligence being used in paper. So there is that lack of personal touch. So it's helping students, how to put your personal touch in writing and actually, and
Agreed.
just kind of show the flaws of AI in that, okay, it sounds robotic, right? It doesn't necessarily sound human. There's a lot of those vocabulary words that AI likes to throw out. But if you don't know what that word means, well, right? So it's again, AI in itself is not a bad thing if you use it
Right.
properly. But once there are students, they're like, I'm just going to use AI to write the paper. And then a lot of my students are in public schools. So now, and especially when things are moving online, so there's all of these AI detectors, right? So when they're detecting AI, that's an automatic fail. And then so, but yeah, I'm seeing more of the use of artificial intelligence as well, particularly for writing students. So I think with this transition into things being online more, I think I'm seeing a lot more of attention to the basics
Right.
and the use of artificial intelligence. That those are things that I'm seeing a lot more of,
Okay.
especially in recent years.
Okay. You've touched on so many points, and there's so much to talk about in that. The foundations are huge. That is a big issue. That we have seen some even pulling their children out from public school and then homeschooling, and they're seeing like, oh, my student's in third grade, but he missed, the basics of first and second grade, and now I'm having to catch them up to third grade, and they're behind in these foundational levels. That can sometimes be a struggle, which is where, you can step in and help them. But in terms of as they get older, they're so all these foundations in academics also spill over into social foundations as well, for like what you're talking about with social emotional learning. And a lot of that, like post pandemic, has been affected. And we are noticing that students are not able to communicate as effectively. They don't know how to share their thoughts. They don't know how to, you know, uh, refer to different experiences and environments, and adjust what they're doing based on that. So that is a huge thing that we have noticed has also become an issue that has impacted academically as well. Um, and those kinds of things, I think they're going to take a little bit of time to really be able to resolve, and it's going to take, constant effort on the adults and the parents and the caregivers part to focus on that element just as much as the academics. You can't just focus on the reading or the writing. Like, you have to focus on the whole child so they can develop into an adult and be able to communicate. I was just reading an article about the fact that the millennials that are just coming out from high school and or no college, they and going into the workforce, they're getting fired already because they don't know how to communicate. They are not self, they're not, they don't have any intrinsic like motivation. They're not self-motivated. They tend to, they're lacking in so many different areas that this young workforce, they're not capable of doing the work or the workload. And it's just, it's falling apart for them because they were not, they lack so much from, this post-pandemic issue that they have. So, it's really beneficial for us to maybe take that investment to get a tutor to maybe help in areas that we're lacking. And that's what I'm always about, is helping my child in terms of being able to facilitate for them and not focusing or worrying so much about me, myself, being the teacher of everything. Because we're wearing so many different hats, it's hard for us to focus on every little area, and sometimes the ball gets dropped and we feel like we're a failure, but it's really not that. We need to focus on the fact that we just want to get our child up to par with, as best as we can, with the resources we have available. So it's really, I like the fact that you were saying, it is the foundational pieces and not just, oh, we have areas that are needing help, they're lacking fundamentally so many different things. On to the AI. I think it's really important that you mentioned that. I know you were saying about the detectors. I've also seen writers, because I'm in some writing groups, they are really annoyed with the detectors, because these detectors are saying that their personal writings that they've never touched with AI are like 90 to 95% AI. Have you seen that trend be an issue with students coming to you and saying, hey, I wrote this paper all on my own, but these AI detectors, because kids are coming into this with high school and college. College is cracking down on the AI as well.
Not as much. I mean, I'm also not surprised either because it is computers, right? And so computers do make errors. Um, I haven't really come across that, but like I said, it's not surprising, right? And I think because of I think a lot of the language that we use in papers is kind of similar to how AI will pick it up. So the lot of the language that we use in a paper might be similar to AI language, what as well. And I think because of because of social media, which is also using AI, I think it's I feel like we're using AI without really using AI. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, that does.
So,
I
um,
agree.
I think it's so infused in our language now that we're writing and we're speaking AI and we don't even realize it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes
No,
sense.
that makes sense.
So,
Well, and AI was
yeah.
created by all of the text that it's picking up from all sorts of online. I mean, so everything that we're writing, it's picking up. So to me, I don't know. I feel like kids do need to learn how to use it and be able to use it appropriately. But then at the backside, kids are getting reprimanded for having AI in their papers when I feel like we need to maybe transition in how we're actually doing school, because this is not going away and we need to figure out how to infuse it better and not, I guess, scold the child for using resources that are, it's helping them to formulate their ideas and things.
Well, I mean, yeah, so that's why you need like a second line of defense, right?
Yeah.
Because, you should be able to file an appeal when we say, no, I did not use AI. These is my words. You should be able, there should be an appeals process, so to speak, right? So,
Yeah.
no, this is my paper. This is my words. Okay, well, file an appeal, right? Let's have a second set of people look at it. Um, because they're using, which is still AI. You're using AI to
Oh,
detect AI, right?
right. Right.
So that's why you need humans to double check it. Like, okay, all right, so we're gonna have like a team of people. I mean, all this for an essay, but you need a a team of people to read it, right? And to determine it and even to ask questions. What does this mean? Where did you get this resource? Where did you get this resource?
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
And again, I do again, if used correctly, AI is helpful. Um, but I can see the parallels and why I would pick that up in terms of the way we talk and the language that AI uses. So that's, I think, and it's computers, it's technology. Of course, it's going to fail. Of course, it's going to show errors, right?
Right.
So I think there needs to be an appeals process, so to speak. If you say no, I use my own words. Okay, so now I'm going to review the teacher, I'm going to review your paper myself, and I'm going to ask you questions. Where did you get this resource? Where did you get this resource? Why did you use this? What does this word mean? What does this word mean? Right? So,
Yeah,
um,
I agree.
there
To
needs to
vet
be
the information.
a human look, a secondary look. Yeah. So
I
I
agree.
just I wouldn't I my recommendation for like teachers and not to put so much faith in the AI detectors, but to you have like the first line of defense and then the student appeals it. Okay, you have the second line of defense. Okay, so you're saying you used your words, you're saying it's wrong. Okay, so I'm gonna read it myself. I'm gonna make a determination. I'm gonna ask you questions. I'm gonna investigate, right? And then you do that.
I think that's
So,
smart. So when you're tutoring and you're maybe helping them to formulate their ideas, and you've got a student that has no clue what they want to write, they have a prompt they're supposed to do for this essay, would you say might help them to figure out how to use AI to maybe create some ideas to get them on the right track for an essay for them to, take that and run with it?
oh, it depends. Um, so they have the prompts. Um, it also depends on the age of the kid. Um,
Right.
so I would like normally I would try to do it themselves, like in terms of okay, so they have a prompt, so I would use like the three structure rule, right? Which
Right.
is okay, give me your three reasons for that. Let's we can come up with three reasons. And then under those reasons, okay, give me three more reasons, right? So I would do that. That would be the
First.
first thing I would do. Before kind of leaning into AI. But even that, I would use that more for like high school students,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Because high school papers are more research based, right? You have to cite your sources, you have to find your journals, you have to. All right, so there's more research based.
Right.
Um, so even for high schoolers, I would still because you can be specific with the artificial intelligence. So I need a journal about drug addiction from 2010. This is the population. So instead of saying, give me the sentence to write or whatever, I would just say, help me find the resource, right? So give me an
Oh, that's smart.
article about drug addiction. Give me an article about drug addiction in 2020, right?
Right.
And it'll give you a bunch of links that you can look at. And use that um to help you.
Okay.
and use that for your research, right? So not so much, write me a paragraph, but just okay. Or
As a
even
search
something
engine.
like as a search engine. So connect. I mean, if you want to be bold, connect. Um, give me three connections between. I'm sorry about the noise. Give me three connections between this journal article and drug addiction and teens today, right? And even using that as a guide, so to guide you in what you're putting together.
Right.
So, I mean, this is interesting for me as well because AI, this is all after my time. So this is all like, okay, like, whoa, like imagine me using AI when I was in school. So, I mean, I don't know if I would still be here today, but but I think and now this is all kind of new.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of interesting kind of learning about this now, but I would just use it more of a research tool as
That's
opposed to
smart.
like write a paragraph. And that's something that I would encourage for older kids. But in the
Absolutely.
high schoolers and the middle schoolers, I would stick to the traditional route. But I mean that's my personal preference because you're not really writing research papers yet in middle school, but when you get to high school and okay, use AI to help you find resources, right?
Agreed.
But you have to track where it's coming from. What, you know, then you have to cite your sources, right?
Right.
So get the link, what's the author, where'd you find it,
Right. You still have to put
all
all
that
that
good stuff.
information. So, and even too, talking about all this AI, they cannot use any resources like this when they go to write their essays for the SAT, or the ACT or anything. That all has to be from their own brain because it's usually, in a prompted area, it's taken in person. So they still have to have these skills, um, that they can implement themselves. So it's still something that needs to be developed on their own, which I know you're able to help them with as well, which has been really, really great to hear, how you can help students and the different range of students that you help. And I know that with all of these new ways of doing just research and with the technology that we have and the artificial intelligence that is with us, it's not going away, but helping the students to know how to use it and to use it appropriately, is definitely something that we have to facilitate. So, this has been such a great conversation, Gabrielle. I'm going to have you on again. I know we were talking about having you share a little bit more about
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
service as well. So, you can share to other families that this is possibility, if the teachers are coming out of the public school system and into the tutoring service, that it is absolutely possible to homeschool and have a service on the side. Where can people find you? Where would you like for them to locate you online?
Yeah. So I just want to make a quick note about the SAT. It is now being offered online, so it's in person and
Oh, really?
online now. You could take, yeah. So I'm sure they seem to be stricter with the online. So
I would say
there was
so.
some pushback against that, but it is now you can now take the test. I think
That's
you
amazing
still have to go to a center.
to take it.
Like it's not like you're taking it from home, but yeah, you still
Okay,
have to go to a place
good to know.
to take it, but it's online. So I want you to just throw that in there. All right, so where can people find me? So you can find me on the web. My website is uh www.astepAheadTutoringServices.com. You could also find me across multiple social media platforms. You can find me on Facebook, X, Instagram, YouTube, WhatsApp. I think there's a couple other that are escaping me, right? TikTok. You can find me on TikTok as well, all under. So I just want to emphasize the A Step Ahead Tutoring Services, and I will pop up so you could find me across multiple platforms there. But the main place that you can find me is online, www.astepAheadTutoringServices.com. And I also want to shout out my podcast, Hot Topics, which is part of my company, which you were recently a guest on. So I
Yes.
want to just take a moment to shout out my podcast. It is a educational based podcast, all with the intention of the listeners and watchers improving their knowledge about the world and being more informed. So my podcast is also multiple